Good evening, Miss and friends. So today I'm assigned to talk about different kinds of vehicles, as you can see, or let's say transportation. So these five vehicles, or let's say transportation, are the kinds of vehicles that we commonly know, at least in Indonesia. And there has been debates here and there about which one has the most benefits or the most value for the users, especially for Indonesian people, as more specifically the ones who live in Jakarta. So without any further ado, I'll break down to you the pros and the cons for each vehicles. Let's start with the small thing, the motorbike. So a motorbike, especially scooters like this bike, they are very common in Indonesia, especially in Jakarta, because it's cheap, you know. So, and these are the reasons why people love motorbikes, especially scooters. First, they are cheap, of course, and then they are compact and flexible. So, Jakarta is very legendary for its traffic. So, the use for small motorbikes like scooters would be very beneficial for the users because it's very flexible. You can literally slide here and there through the traffic. And then second, motorbikes are really fuel efficient. They have really small engines, so usually they will eat up to 20 until 40 kilometers for a liter of gasoline. And then next, they are not so complex and they are relatively cheaper, so they are cheaper and easier to maintain. And but for the cons, you will need to fight sun and rain. So when it's hot, you will absorb all the heat from the sun, but when it's raining, you will be draining. Now let's jump to the bigger boy, the car. Cars are also very common in Indonesia, also in Jakarta, uh, but cars are not as common as motorbikes because they are more expensive, way more expensive, so they are more for middle class and higher class people. But for the pros, you get extra comfort for the extra money for sure. So you get the bigger cabin, a bigger seat, a bigger legroom, and air conditioner, and all the comforts that you cannot get on a motorbike. And also, unlike motorbikes, you will not need to fight the heat from the sun. You will not need to fight the rain or the wind. And for the another pros, cars are also having way larger capacity, so you will be able to pick up way more passengers, or let's say companion or baggage. But for the cons, because cars are more complex and have way bigger engines than motorbikes, so they are not so fuel efficient. Like for example, they will only eat up to 10 to 20 kilometers for a liter of gasoline. And because they are more complex and have bigger engines, they are also way more costly to maintain. And then when you are driving a car, you will need to fight the traffic, unlike motorbikes. Next, an even bigger boy, the bus, the Transjakarta in Indonesia. So buses are not very common in Indonesia because people would prefer to use motorbikes and cars rather than using these vehicles. But for the pros, they are insanely affordable. For example, they would only cost you around 3 until 5,000 rupiah for a ride. And then they have huge capacity, so for a ride you can take around maybe 20 to 40 people, and they are quite comfortable if you are alone, not so crowded inside, and they are very good for the eco-friendly people because they can pick up way more people and then they would consume less gas than cars and motorbikes combined. But for the cons, they might be extremely comfortable when the people are crowded, and then usually the public transport like bus are not so safe inside. Now going back to the smaller boy, the bicycle or just a bike. So they are also not very common in Indonesia for several reasons, but for the pros, they are insanely affordable. They would normally cost you around 1 until 5 million rupiah only, and they are also great for eco-friendly people. They are the ultimate eco-friendly vehicle because they do not consume any gasoline or any fuel. Oh yeah, they need no fuel. And then for the cons on why these things are not so popular in Indonesia, especially in Jakarta, because first of all, bicycles are insanely uncomfortable. The seats are very tight, and if you have a big body, then bicycles can be very cramped for your body. And then they are super tiring, especially if you are going many miles. You have to push the bicycle to the limit, and then they are really slow. Now let's talk about the ultimate of the ultimate vehicle, the aeroplane, or let's say a private jet, which is truly rare in Indonesia, especially in Jakarta. It's not very common. For the pros, of course, you get ultimate comfort because it is private jet, and then you get no traffic. All of those for the ultimate money too. And then because you are paying that much, you will be feeling rich when you're inside a private jet. And for the cons, again, ultimate expense for all of those comfort and no traffic and feeling rich. Of course, you have to pay the ultimate expense. It would even put you into a big debt if you are forcing to buy one. And even though you get all the comfort and having no traffic, but in Indonesia, when you are using a private jet, you will not have so many space or area to land your private jet. So kind of sad. And then because it has huge engine, of course, it is very bad in terms of eco-friendliness. So jumping into the conclusion, of course, any kinds of these vehicles can be very useful and beneficial for all of us, for all of you guys, and that's up to your needs, okay? But for me, the winner, the ultimate winner, of course, this is very biased. The ultimate winner, if you are living in Jakarta, in Indonesia, the ultimate winner is the motorbike because it's cheap, it's very low in maintenance, not so complex, and then it is very fuel efficient. Again, it's saving your money, and then it's very flexible. You can go here and there using this small motorbike, and it's quite fun. So that's it for me. That's the conclusion. Out of all those 5 vehicles, motorbike is the best if you are living in Indonesia, especially in Jakarta. Thank you and see you in next video.